Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Mailbag. This is our weekend mailbag installment of the show where all we do is interact with you guys and take your mailbag questions. Now, as some of you guys know, we have a Monday through Friday show called AMC Movie Talk, where we talk about all the movie news, and we take one or two questions from the mailbag. So on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, all we do is take questions from the mailbag, and then when we do the show live, like we are today, we also take questions from the Chatboard, and there's already like 400 of you guys in the Chatboard waiting for us, so I'm sure we're going to have a really active Chatboard today. And I want to introduce somebody. It's always more fun when I have somebody here kind of doing this with me, especially keeping track of all the questions on the Chatboard, because it's difficult for me to keep track of all the questions on the Chatboard. So joining me today, keeping track of all the questions of the Chatboard, she is my wife, the second best looking person in our relationship, Miss Ann Campia, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for helping me out today, honey.
Nice little intro there.
Yeah, wasn't that great? I'm going to pay for that later. So anyway, we got a bunch of questions we're going to get to today. Thank you all you guys in the chat board who are joining us. Really appreciate being here. By the way, my name is John Campia. I'm the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News. So without any further ado, here's how we're going to do it today. I'm going to take 6 mailbag questions today. And then after we're done the mailbag questions, we're going to throw it over to Ann, who's going to be picking out questions from the chat board. So here's a bit of advice. Don't bother asking questions in the chat board until we get close to the end of the email mailbags, because we're not going to take them until a little bit later. So just hold on to your questions for a bit, and then we'll let you know when it's time to throw your questions up on there live. So without any further ado, let's get to question number 1. And question number 1 today comes to us from Rashad Hardrick, who writes, "What's up, AMC Movie Crew? First of all, John, just want to say that I have a lot of love and respect for what you do. Thank you so much, Rashad. It's incredible that you deliver movie news for us fans every day of the week, and I appreciate that very much. And we appreciate you guys watching. Thank you." So, with so much negative feedback regarding the casting of Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, do you think she might actually drop out of Batman vs. Superman, similar to when Charlie Hunnam from Sons of Anarchy dropped out of 50 Shades of Grey? Well, Rashad, it's a good question. Could that happen? Could we see, with all the backlash for Gal Gadot when her casting as Wonder Woman, could we see her drop out? I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say no for 2 very specific reasons, okay? The 2 reasons I don't think we're going to see Gal Gadot drop out is, number 1, much like the Ben Affleck and Batman situation, I believe Warner Brothers was fully prepared for the type of negative backlash there was going to be and how much negative backlash there was going to be. And I believe they prepared Gal Gadot as well. Because let's face it, Wonder Woman is the single most iconic female superhero in history. So there was going to be backlash. And let's call a spade a spade. No matter who they cast as Wonder Woman, there was going to be some degree, whether it was a lot or a little bit, but there was going to be some degree of negative backlash, no matter who they cast, right? I mean, they could have cast the greatest actress in history, and there still would have been people having problems with it. And everybody knows, I don't make it a secret, I think it's a really terrible decision to cast Gal Gadot, but that's me, and that's my opinion. So that's number 1 reason. I don't think she'll back out, because I believe Warner Brothers was completely prepared for the negative backlash, and I believe they also prepared her for the negative backlash. Now, the second reason I don't think we're going to see her drop out, similar to the Charlie Hunnam dropping out of the 50 Shades of Grey thing because of all the negative backlash, is because in the Charlie Hunnam situation, it wasn't just 50 Shades of Grey people that weren't happy with Hunnam being cast. It was Hunnam's own fans, particularly his fans of Sons of Anarchy, who, when Sons of Anarchy is one of my favorite shows on TV, and if you know, Sons of Anarchy is about a biker gang, for heaven's sakes. There are a lot of Sons of Anarchy fans and Charlie Hunnam fans who did not want Charlie Hunnam to have anything to do with 50 Shades of Grey. They did not want that. They didn't want to associate something they loved, a biker show like Sons of Anarchy, with something like 50 Shades of Grey. So you had the 50 Shades of Grey fans didn't want him, and you had his own fans and Sons of Anarchy fans did not want him to have anything to do with 50 Shades of Grey. So he was getting it from both ends, and I thought it was and I'm a Charlie Hunnam fan, but I thought it was a very odd casting and a very odd decision for him to even want to be in 50 Shades of Grey. With Gal Gadot, it's a different situation. Number one, she's not an actress, so it's not like she's got a big, TV show that's hers or a big movie franchise that's hers. That her fans are not going to like her being Wonder Woman. And the movies that she has had a part in have been the Fast and Furious films, and I don't think Fast and the Furious fans will have any problem with Gal Gadot doing it. And any pre-existing fans Gadot had, I don't think they're going to be upset that she takes Wonder Woman like Charlie Hunnam's fans were upset that he was going to take a 50 Shades of Grey role. So no, I don't believe that Gadot will back out because, number one, Warner Brothers prepared her for the negative backlash. Number two, her own fans aren't going to be against her taking the role like Charlie Hunnam's fans were against him taking the role. While we're on the subject of Gadot and negative feedback and all that kind of stuff, I'm not going to go into my whole diatribe again about why I don't like and why you shouldn't, and it's cool if you do, but why you shouldn't like the casting of Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I won't go into all that again, but I will say this. We have to keep in mind that there is a difference between what our reactions are and being prejudging something. There's a difference. See, I can be somebody who says, this is a terrible choice. They should have gotten somebody who's already a proven talented actress. Doesn't have to be well known, can be a total unknown, but is proven that they are a legit, trained, experienced, talented actress instead of Gal Gadot. I believe that's what they should have done. But there's a difference between doing that and what some people are doing online, which is saying, that's it, I'm not going to even bother seeing the new Man of Steel movie. I'm not even going to bother going to see this. That's making a judgment in advance. There's having your reaction and expressing your reaction and why you're having that reaction. But then what we as fans got to be able to do is say, okay, that's our reaction, and express our reaction and state our reasons why we're reacting the way we are. But then we have to be willing to give it a chance when it happens. We have to be willing to go to Man of Steel. If you're like these types of movies, then you got to be willing to go to the next Man of Steel film, take those reactions and that those feelings you have about Gal Gadot being cast as Wonder Woman, whatever, and leave them at the door when you go into the theater. You got to be willing to take those feelings you have, and you're totally fair to have those feelings, and I'm totally fair to have mine. But we got to be willing to take those feelings and leave them at the door when we go into the theater and sit down and say, okay, that's how I reacted to the news, but now let's actually watch the film and judge it and Gal Gadot and everybody else in the film on their own merits. Don't let my reaction affect my viewing experience. Now, that's tough to do, and it's hard to do. Some might even say it's not possible to do it 100%, but that's what we as film fans need to endeavor to do. That's what I'm going to do when the new Man of Steel comes out. I can say, crap, if they put Nightwing in it, then I lose all my hope for the film and all that kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. But I'm still going to go, and I'm going to leave those reactions at the door, and I'm going to go into the theater and then give the film its shot. Look, how many times have you heard me say, hey, I thought this movie was going to be crap, and it ended up being awesome? How many times has that happened to you? So that's what we got to do as film fans. Take our reactions, and we should talk about our reactions and why we think it's a good idea or a bad idea. But then when it comes time for the movie, leave those reactions at the door and judge the movie, the individual actors in it, judge it all on its own merits when that happens. So I just want to caution us fans to make sure that while we're excited and passionate and upset or angry or whatever and all that kind of stuff, that's all good. That's great discussion. That's great debate. But when it comes time for the movie, leave it at the door. Go in, watch it, and give it its shot. Anne, for example, she looked at me as a package, and I'm not the best sales package. And she decided, I'll give him a chance. Despite the rough edges, I'll give him a chance. And I'm sure she's glad she did. Right, honey?
Yes, I'm very, very happy.
Yay! Okay, let's move on to
People do agree with you in the chat, though.
What are they saying in the chat board?
Well, Ali Monsters actually said, relax. If she doesn't do well, they'll probably just recast for the standalone Wonder Woman film. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the big things. So, but obviously, as a fan, we would rather them just get in the person who's going to be Wonder Woman. I mean, look, everybody knows I'm totally cool with recasting.
I'm totally cool with recasting. I think the role is always bigger than the actor. Who cares? But all other things being equal, we would rather see the same actor be cast at the beginning and then to see it through. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I would have liked somebody else to be cast. But yes, that option is open, that if she really sucks and the public doesn't react well to her, then they totally have the option to recast her. But I think we all agree that all other things being equal, we would prefer to stick with one person. Anyway, let's move on to question number 2. And question number 2 today comes to us from Mike.C, who writes, "Hello, AMC crew. Out of all the trailers seen so far for 2014 superhero movies, who will win at the box office? Captain America Winter Soldier, X-Men Days of Future Past, Amazing Spider-Man 2, or Guardians of the Galaxy, even though the majority haven't seen the trailer yet?" That's a really good question, Mike, because we spend when we're talking about box office predictions, we've really been, focusing our discussion and our debate on what will win the 2015 box office, right? Because that's where you got Avengers 2, you got Batman vs. Superman, you got the new Star Wars, you got the new Jurassic Park, you got a lot of big, major, heavy hitter films coming out in 2015. And we often are guilty of overlooking 2014. So, okay, let's take your question. Let's look at the issue at hand. Of the 2014 major comic book films coming out, Captain America, Guardians of the Galaxy, what were the other ones? Again, Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I'm going to bring it back, and X-Men Days of Future Past. Which one is going to win the box office? I'm going to say that I believe Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think Amazing Spider-Man 2 will probably win the box office, followed by X-Men Days of Future Past, followed by Captain America Winter Soldier, followed by Guardians of the Galaxy. So I think it's going to be the Amazing Spider-Man 2 will make the most money at the box office. Now remember, I'm saying winner at the box office. I'm not saying which is going to be the best movie, okay? Those are two separate things. But when we're talking, the questions about the box office, number 1, Amazing Spider-Man 2, number 2, X-Men Days of Future Past, number 3, Captain America Winter Soldier, and number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy. But let me also say that I think all of them are going to do well. I think they're all going to be profitable. I think Guardians of the Galaxy, I mean, we've talked about Guardians of the Galaxy before. This is the wild card because it is a totally unknown property. It is the first Marvel film that they're doing as a studio since creating their cinematic universe that nobody knows nothing about these guys. I mean, whatsoever. As a matter of fact, the person that I know that knows more about Guardians of the Galaxy than anybody else I know is actually sitting right beside me is Anne. Anne actually knows more about Guardians of the Galaxy than anybody else I know. And part of the reason is like a year ago, maybe, or a little bit less than a year ago, you actually started collecting. I mean, she's read more Guardians of the Galaxy than I have. And you started collecting all of them and reading like all the old stuff. You started reading all the new stuff. You're actually up to date on all the new stuff too, right?
Yeah. They're a lot of fun. I mean, they're not as dark or in depth as some of the other comics, but they're a lot of fun. I love the interaction of the characters. And personally, I'm looking forward to the movie. I want to see what they're going to do with it. And just that little snippet that we saw, I think it was like a leaked
that leaked trailer
after Comic-Con, that got me really excited, especially with Rocket Raccoon
doing this thing. And the feel of it feels really good. So I think there are going to be enough people that want to go out and give it a shot because it's part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I also think it's going to do least well out of those 4. So that's why let us know in the chat board which ones you think are going to. Do you agree with me that Spider-Man 2 will finish number 1 at the box office? Do you not agree? And has anybody chimed in on the chat board yet about what they think will win the box office in 2014 as far as the comic books movies go?
You know what? My chat is blowing up. I'll have to check here.
That's why I have somebody sitting here to do Chatboard with me, because you guys have the Chatboard scrolls so fast.
Between Captain America and Days of Future Past, the Mick2639 says, RoboCop wasn't on the list, so somebody said RoboCop's gonna suck. James Jones says X-Men will win.
Yeah, the trailer for X-Men Days of Future Past looks so good.
The real Brennan Huff says Guardians of the Galaxy will definitely be the poorest just because it is fairly original to moviegoers.
Yeah, and totally brand new. A lot of people don't know it. So,
right.
All right, let's move on to question number 3. And question number 3 today comes to us from Eric G, who writes, greetings and salutations to all of you at AMC Movie Talk. Love the show and had a few questions about the Thrawn Trilogy from the Star Wars Expanded Universe. For those of you who don't know, Thrawn Trilogy is like is absolutely my favorite Star Wars novels. Anyway, I listened to the recent audiobooks for the trilogy and thought they would have made an amazing sequel trilogy if followed. Do you think that if the trilogy was made into a sequel trilogy before they did those horrible, horrendous prequels came out, I'm adding the words horrible and horrendous, came out, do you think it would have been successful? Thanks and keep up the great work. Do I think that if instead of the terrible Star Wars prequels, they made the Thrawn trilogy as sequels, do I think they would have done well? Absolutely, they would have done well. The Thrawn trilogy is fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. I really want to encourage any of you who are mild Star Wars fans to really check out the Thrawn trilogy. Hop on Amazon, type in Thrawn trilogy, whatever. They're fantastic. And Thrawn, Grand Admiral Thrawn, is probably, aside from Vader himself, the best Star Wars universe villain I think we've ever had. He's so compelling as a villain. He's so great. The story is wonderful, and it picks up after Return of the Jedi. Not immediately after Return of the Jedi, but it picks up after Return of the Jedi. It's too late now. It's too late now to do a Thrawn trilogy, which is really unfortunate. But I absolutely think the public would have ate it up. I think we would have all eaten it up completely. And yeah, I think it would have done really well. So if you have not checked it out yet, go and grab the Thrawn trilogy. It's fantastic. All right, let's move on to question number 4. And question number 4 today comes to us from Alex Santana, who writes, hello guys, love the show. My question is movie pacing. I've never quite understood what others mean when they talk about the pacing in movies. The Wolverine, some say, has weak pacing, but others might say its pacing is just fine. What exactly is movie pacing, or what do people mean when they talk about movie pacing? Thanks for your time and keep up the great work. Well, I find that movie pacing, because I use this term a lot, as a matter of fact. I talk about movie pacing a lot when I'm critiquing or talking about a film. I talk about how well it was paced, how badly it was paced. Some people may disagree with me. That's cool. For me, it's a difficult term to define specifically what it means. Here's what it means to me, okay? And I'm sure there are going to be some of you guys in the chat board who will disagree with my definition. That's totally cool. But so you know what I'm talking about when I talk about movie pacing, it's like this. A movie doesn't have to be quick-paced or slow-paced to have pacing, to still have good, definitive pacing. What I mean by pacing is the story has a flow. The movie has a flow to it where, like, every certain number of beats, something significant happens, whether it's a significant action sequence or a significant piece of information is given or a significant piece of dialogue happens or a specific piece of plot revelation is done. There's a pace to it. So you can have, like, movies with absolutely frantic paces, like, say, The Avengers. Or you can have a movie that I think is the best paced movie in the past 10 years, to me is, and you're going to be surprised when I say this, but is The King's Speech. The King's Speech is a perfectly paced movie in the sense that it has its own flow and that every certain number of beats, certain things happen, and it allows you as an audience member to get into that river, get into that current, and allow the story to carry you along because it's got a cadence, it's got a beat, that every certain number of beats, something happens, whether it's a significant conversation, plot revelation, whatever, or action sequence, whatever, and that's what gets you into it. So I'm going to embarrass myself a little bit here. Honey, you're going to laugh at me when I do this. But here's an illustration, okay? Imagine 4/4 time. I used to play in bands, and I used to be a musician. Hard to imagine, isn't it? But imagine 4/4 time, okay?
Yeah.
And so again. Okay, so there's your 4/4 time, right? So you can have a frantic movie, right, with a lot going on, but follows that cadence of beats. So to kind of mimic this musically, don't hold this against me. I'm going to embarrass myself, whatever. So you got a really upbeat song. So bada 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 bada. So you got a lot of notes happening there, right? But within that cadence, there's a lot of notes happening, but it's in the cadence. Now, you can get a slower movie in the same cadence, right? So you can get ba 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 ba. So you see how there's fewer notes, fewer things happening, but they still follow that beat. They still follow that cadence, that flow of the film. So you can have a super frantic movie, ba 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 ba. You can have a slower one, but they still have pace. What happens though is you really know you're in a badly paced movie because you know what I'm talking about. It's hard to explain, but you know it in your gut because you're sitting there and you're watching the movie and it goes ba-da-ba, ba-ba-ba-ba. And you feel, it feels jarring. It doesn't have its own flow. It doesn't have its own pace. So when talking about now, everybody's going to, damn it, someone's going to make a video meme out of me doing that damn music stuff.
Sure
it's going to be horrible now. Anyway, so do you get what I'm saying? When you're talking about pace, it's almost like you have to feel it in a film. It's hard to define, but you know it as you're watching it. You know it as you're feeling it. And there are just some movies that have beautiful, wonderful pace. Frantic movies like Avengers. I thought Avengers had just a terrific pace. Slower movies can have amazing pace, like The King's Speech. So that's, I think when we're talking about pacing, at least when you hear me talking about pacing, that is what I'm talking about. That flow, certain significant things happening per beat, and you can just feel it as the movie's going on. Anyway, I've gone on enough about that. Let's get on to the next question before I start singing again. And the next question comes to us from Tyson T. And Tyson T writes, "Hi there, I am new to your show, but I love it." Thank you so much, Tyson. "So I've been waiting to hear this news for a very long time, and now I want to know if it's a rumor or really happening. The NeverEnding Story reboot. Is it going to happen? And if so, what are your opinions about it? Thank you so much for reading this, and I'll never stop watching the show. You guys are great." Okay, well, thank you so much, Tyson, for the question. Man, how great is NeverEnding Story? Honey, I've never asked you. Did you ever watch NeverEnding Story as a kid?
I did. I was pretty young, but I did love that movie, actually.
Dream, dream. I'm not going to start singing. But, with Caillou and the Nothing and all that kind of stuff. I mean, NeverEnding Story is one of those movies that I watched like 20 times as a kid. And I'll be honest with you, I remember nothing about the NeverEnding Story 2.
No, I don't even think I saw it.
I have no recollection of anything that happened in that movie. I know that I saw it, but I couldn't tell you a single thing about it. I don't know. So obviously it didn't stick with me as much as the first NeverEnding Story did. I know in the past number of years, there has been rumblings about another, not reboot, but another NeverEnding Story movie. I know there was some rumblings about a reboot. To be honest, I haven't heard anything about the NeverEnding Story probably in about 2 years. I haven't heard anything. So there may be some backdoor meetings going on at some studio somewhere where maybe there's something in motion for a few years from now. But myself, I have not heard anything in the last couple of years about it. So as far as I know, there's no plans to give us anything new as far as NeverEnding Story goes. By all means, if you guys have heard something different or have a link to something, drop it in the chat board because, 1,000 people have more insight and knowledge than I have by myself. So by all means, if you guys have a link to something about NeverEnding Story that maybe I'm missing, feel free to throw it in the chat board there so everybody else can see it. All right, we're going to go to our last mailbag question today that we have in here, and then we'll go to the chat board and take questions from there. And the last mailbag question we're taking today comes to us from Connor Hillier, who writes, "Hey guys, I've been watching the show for near on a month now, and since I began, it's become an addiction. John and Dennis were discussing which of the big 3 2015 movies will, quote-unquote, win at the box office. Do you think any of the other movies set for release that year will break the $1 billion mark? Maybe James Bond or Jurassic World? Also, do you think any of the 2015 movies have a chance of breaking the box office record set by Avatar and Titanic? Thanks, guys, and keep up the great work." Okay, well, let's get to the first question. I think besides the big 3 in 2015, Avengers 2, Batman vs. Superman, the new Star Wars, do we think any of the other films have a chance at cracking $1 billion worldwide? Absolutely. And you pointed out, too, the new James Bond coming off of the ridiculous success of Skyfall, the most successful James Bond film of all time, and Jurassic World. I mean, absolutely, Jurassic World has a chance at that if it's good, and word of mouth, and people start telling other people to flock to it. Especially then, I think there's a very good chance. We could see 6 films in 2015 break the $1 billion mark. 6 films. Now, on to the second part of your question, which is, of the big 3, do I think any of those 3 have actually a chance at breaking the box office record being held by Avatar? Tough question, man. Tough question. A lot will depend on how is Captain America received and how good is it? How well is Guardians of the Galaxy received and how good is it? How big of a crescendo will be going on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe leading into the next Avengers film? How good do the trailers for the next Star Wars look? Because people are just aching for a great Star Wars movie. How good or bad does Man of Steel 2 look? I mean, there's so much up in the air. I think it's possible one of those 3 could beat it. But if I had to put money on it right now, if I were a gambling man, if I had to put money on it right now, I would guess that while all 3 of those big 3 are going to make ridiculous amounts of money at the box office in 2015, Batman vs. Superman, Avengers 2, the new Star Wars, if I had to put money on it, I would guess none of them will break the Avatar record. That's just my guess. But I wouldn't be willing to put money on that because I think it's going to be close. I think a couple of them could come close. A lot will depend on the trailers when they first start popping up and what we see from there. So, okay, guys, that'll do it for the mailbag questions. For the rest of the show now, we're just going to take your questions from the chat board. For those of you who are watching us live, if you have questions or a topic that you would like me to bring up or talk about in the show, go ahead and throw in the question or topic. And Anne is sitting over here. She has all the power. Much
as always.
Like the rest of our relationship. She has all the power, and she will pick out some questions to throw up. And Anne, do we have anything already picked out?
Yeah, I pulled a couple. A East 94 says, message from Hamilton, Canada.
Woohoo! The Hammer, for those you don't know, Hamilton, Ontario, greatest city in the world. Just so happens to be my hometown. So anyway.
This person asks, why do European countries get movies released a week before us Canadians do? Why isn't a movie released on the same date worldwide?
I've asked this question a lot, and it's certainly not always. I mean, most of the time, movies open in North America first, and 99% of the time, movies open in the U.S. and Canada at the same time. As a matter of fact, when they're talking about the North American box office, that is, and when you hear international box office and domestic box office, I believe that, and I there's a chance I could be wrong about here, but I'm fairly certain that when you hear them talk about domestic box office, that includes U.S. and Canada. So usually U.S. and Canada, the movies open on the same day. Sometimes they open in Europe early. Why do they open early in Europe? Or why do they not open everywhere on the same day? Honestly, I don't have a good answer for that. I've never been given a good answer for that. I think it would make sense to open all movies everywhere same day. There's an argument to be had, though, to say that, hey, if a studio really likes a movie and they want really good buzz generated before it opens in North America, open it up overseas first and let all the critics over there and let the fans over there start writing on the internet how great the movie is so that when it opens in the North American markets, that more people will be excited about it. That's all I got for you. That's the only thing I've got for you about why that might be the case. My chat board is freezing up because it's going by way too fast. So anyway, as I ban somebody from the chat board, there we go. Anyway, so that's the best answer I got. So what else do we got, Ann?
Just because this question is timely, all the B co ask, John, why aren't there any original Christmas movies anymore? All the recent Christmas movies have been remakes or just not that good. What happened to originals like Home Alone or Santa Claus? Those types of movies.
It's tough making a good Christmas movie. A couple years ago, there was another original Christmas movie put out with Vince Vaughn and Reese Witherspoon. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yes.
Home for the Holidays,
Yeah,
or something like that.
I think so.
And it bombed. I know there was another one with the girl from Newsroom that really didn't do well. Doing a Christmas movie is a little...
Doing it well is hard.
Doing it well is
original
really hard.
And doing an original Christmas movie and doing it well that people want to see it. I don't.
Yeah, and whether people... And I don't know, maybe there's just too many classics that people, when they think about seeing a Christmas movie, they just think about those ones we already know. It's a great question. It's a terrific question. If you guys have theories about why there aren't more original Christmas time movies coming out, throw your thoughts in the chat board there and let us know what you think. All right, what else we got?
Eric Curto asked, John, do you think Bryan Singer's Xmen tweet took the thunder away from the Amazing Spider-Man 2 trailer?
I don't think so. If anything, I think it took a lot of tension off the Wonder Woman casting announcement. I know that happened. I know that there was the predominant story going around in the movie blog sphere was obviously the Gal Gadot Wonder Woman thing, and then it was quickly replaced by the Bryan Singer. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, director Bryan Singer, who directed X-Men 1 and X-Men 2, he didn't direct X-Men 3, is directing X-Men Days of Future Past, which is coming out next year, and it looks amazing. And then he took to his Twitter the other day to say 2016 X-Men Apocalypse, which got all of us who are comic book sweaty nerds really excited and jumping up and down. And all of a sudden now, there wasn't a lot of discussion about Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman anymore. Now it was people talking X-Men Apocalypse. I don't think it stole the thunder, though, from Amazing Spider-Man 2 second trailer. I mean, remember, the Amazing Spider-Man 2 second trailer is awesome, but it's the second trailer. And so if it was the very first Spider-Man trailer, maybe then, but I don't think it took any of the thunder away from the Amazing Spider-Man 2 trailer. I think it held up okay and did that. If anything, I think it stole thunder from the Wonder Woman announcement, which maybe is a good thing for Warner Brothers. I mean, maybe. Yeah, I'm just thinking crazy here.
Crazy.
What normally happens to steal thunder, follow me here, guys. Tell me if you think I'm crazy or not here, okay? Tell me if you think I'm nuts, but follow me here. I just had an epiphany, all right? And the angels sang. So I just had an epiphany. Normally when you're trying to steal thunder, when Studio A makes a big announcement, then Studio B will put out another big announcement to try to steal the thunder. What if Warner Brothers DC knew that Bryan Singer and Fox were going to announce X-Men Apocalypse, and they knew that Spider-Man 2 was going to get its second trailer released, and they purposefully, because they knew there would be so much negative backlash to Gal Gadot being cast as Wonder Woman, what if then they purposefully put out the announcement of Wonder Woman just before those other announcements came out so the attention would be taken off? What if Warner Brothers DC purposefully wanted the attention taken off the Wonder Woman casting news for a while until everybody had a chance to get used to it by purposefully putting it right before the announcement of X-Men Apocalypse and the new Spider-Man 2 trailer? Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm just conspiracy theorizing here.
That's
Maybe I'm
one,
completely out to lunch. But what if? Let me know your thoughts in the chat board, and when you start seeing some reactions to that, let me know what you're hearing. Until then, what other questions we got in the chat board?
All right. I think I started a shout out to Canada stream here. Everyone who's from Canada is asking their questions, prefacing it by saying that they're from Canada.
And they're probably, half of them are lying. Half of them probably writing from like Finland. John, I too am from the Canada.
The Canada. Dane Gumas asks, hi, Ann and John. Love you guys. If you could remake any film, which would it be? Can I give mine?
Yeah, go ahead.
I would remake Big, my most favorite
That's your
movie
favorite
of
movie
all
of all
time.
time. And you would have it remade?
Yes. It's about time to do it. It's it's 20 years now.
Normally, people won't say they want a remake of a film that's like their favorite of all time, and Big is your all-time favorite film.
I love it so much that I would love to remake it and have one of the actors of today playing that role, and then possibly have Tom Hanks as an older character in the film, make an appearance.
Maybe the boss character of the company.
Yeah, something like that. I thought it'd be really neat.
What about this? Gal Gadot starring in Big. What do you think, guys?
Wearing a Wonder Woman costume. I love it.
Costume.
Yes, please.
things I really want to see remade, man, I've said this before. Nobody's seen this movie. I would really prefer a sequel, but I would do a remake. Megaforce. Life is like a wheel. It all comes around. Yeah, ace. If any of you guys have seen one Megaforce, I'm going to be really impressed. But I would love to see a Megaforce remake. So that's me. All right, what's next?
Okay. Nishka Adams asked, do you think we will ever see Gambit in an X-Men movie again?
They've kind of backed themselves into a corner with the Wolverine thing because they already put Gambit in the X-Men universe. They didn't do a very good job with him, although I very much like the actor who they got to play him. They got Taylor Kitsch. I'm a big fan of Taylor Kitsch. I think the dude is a really good actor. He's just unfortunately been in some very bad films, but I think he's a very good actor. And I would be all for seeing them bringing him back. Now, X-Men at the same time, they don't seem to care about continuity too much because they had they had Sabretooth in the first X-Men film, and then in the X-Men Origins Wolverine movie, they'd say, just forget about that Sabretooth you saw before. Just forget. You saw nothing. These aren't the droids you're looking for. And they put in a new actor, a great actor, by the way. They put in a new actor to play Sabretooth, and they totally redid Sabretooth, even though it's in the same cinematic universe. So they wouldn't be opposed to that. But honestly, I really wouldn't mind seeing them just grabbing Taylor Kitsch, but make the character better this time and using him again as Gambit, saying it's the same guy. I don't think we're going to see him in X-Men Days of Future Past, so that scratched 2014 out. But I would say there's a good 20% chance. I would say there's a good 20% chance we will see Gambit in 2016 in X-Men Apocalypse. So that will be my guess. All right. What else do we got?
Okay. Brent Mendoza asks, I heard a few years back that a Bad Boys 3 movie was being written at the time. Is there any news for a third installment?
I don't think there's any news, but I do believe a Bad Boys 3 is eventually going to happen. I know Michael Bay has talked about it in the past. I think there's enough fans that really want it. And I think when the Vin Diesel Sylvester Stallone syndrome hits Will Smith, I believe he will do it too. John, what is the Vin Diesel Sylvester Stallone syndrome? The Vin Diesel Sylvester Stallone syndrome is you get an actor like Vin Diesel or Sylvester Stallone who has one or two really big franchises, and then they kind of get away from that and start doing other types of films, and they all bomb. And so they go, I think I'll go back to those franchises that I used to do, those types of movies I used to do. Because Sylvester Stallone had a huge string of bombs, and then he did Rocky VI, which was amazing. And then he did the new Rambo, which was amazing. Vin Diesel got away from Fast and Furious, got away from Triple X, did a number of films that just fell flat, didn't perform very well. And it's like, I'll go back to Fast and the Furious. And it was a big hit, and it's been a great move for him. I think Will Smith, we're starting to see that people don't flock out and just trust a movie because Will Smith's in it like they used to. 6 Pounds was a disappointment for him and box office wise. The new one he just did, After Earth, I think it is, with M. Night Shyamalan
and his son,
and his son, which people did, which turned a lot of people off. And he keeps putting his son in these things. I think that hurt, and I think at some point we're gonna hear an announcement that he has decided to come back to Independence Day, and then he will do Bad Boys 3, because who's the guy in Bad Boys 3 with him?
Martin Lawrence.
Martin Lawrence, I think right now, in between his asking, would you like fries with that, Shake Jobs? I think Martin Lawrence
what is he up to these days?
I don't know, but I'm sure he will be more than gung-ho to come back for Bad Boys 3. I had to put my money on it. I think it's going to happen at some point. I believe I heard, it's been a while since I've heard anything about it, but Bay's been busy, Smith's been busy, but I think it's going to happen at some point. Let's take a couple more.
Okay, well, there was a question, are you going to do a review on The Hobbit 2? I think I know the answer to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And actually saw The Hobbit,
yes.
The Desolation of Smaug. And as a funny thing, last night we were here and we had a friend over too. And the three of us, we watched the original Hobbit again. And it's funny, now that we've seen The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, how even better the first Hobbit is now. Mm-hmm. It's like, I've always liked the first Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. I like The Hobbit very much. But after watching the second Hobbit movie, I like the first Hobbit movie even more. I mean, it's one of those things. I think the new Hobbit movie is fantastic. And yes, we are going to do a AMC spoilers review of The Hobbit, probably be about 45 minutes long. But our AMC spoiler reviews are only for people who have seen the movie. And since 99.9% of you have not had the opportunity to see the movie yet, we're not going to put that review out probably until maybe 2 days after The Hobbit hits theaters. After The Hobbit hits theaters, we will put that spoiler review up so you can join in our conversation about The Hobbit. But we won't have it up before then. But I will let you know right now, I effing love The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. I loved it a lot. And I know everybody who saw it with me loved it too. So I'm just give you that little glimpse right there.
Okay, next question. Washington Fabian asked, do you guys think Spider-Man will die at the end of the new Amazing Spider-Man movies like recently in the comics?
No, I don't think so. I think that's an untouchable thing for them. And remember, the new movies, I think they're already planning 4, 5, and 6. And they will not kill him. I have no doubt in my mind they will not kill Spider-Man. Remember, the comics and the current storylines in the comics will have very little influence on what's going on. The fact of the matter is, I believe I added it up. I looked up the comic sales numbers, and less than 150,000 people bought the collective Spider-Man comics out last month. 150,000 people bought Spider-Man comics last month.
It's crazy.
That means if every single one of them went to see the Spider-Man movies, that equals $1.5 million of the box office. 1.5 out of 600 million. 1.5 out of 600 million. So that shows you how important it is for the studios to aim their storylines specifically at the comics and keeping the comic book fans pleased. And they shouldn't, because they need to cater it to the wider movie-going audience while keeping us comic book readers happy at the same time, but not catering to comic book readers. That's important, and it's right that they do that. Try to keep us happy, but don't cater to us because we are such a small portion of the overall audience that goes to these movies. Anyway, the short answer to your question is no, I don't think they'll kill off Spider-Man. I really don't. All right, what's next?
Okay, the superhero blog asks, hey, John, if Star Wars hadn't been so heavily involved in your upbringing, do you think it would be among your favorite films?
Hard to say. I mean, it's almost impossible to say because Anne knows this more than anything else. Mm-hmm. I've told the story before. Star Wars is my earliest childhood memory. I don't remember anything earlier than that. That I remember watching the original Star Wars with my mom. That's it. That is the earliest childhood memory I have. And that played a huge part in the development of my imagination, the development of my creativity. And it's just played such a huge part of my life. And it's hard to say. They are the greatest movies ever made. The original, the only real Star Wars movies, Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, are just amongst the greatest films ever made as far as I'm concerned. But it is difficult to say. What would I think if I hadn't had that experience? I can't answer that question, honestly. But it's a great question to ask. All right, let's take like 2 more.
Okay. Jam Low Red asks if there's any hope for another Spawn movie.
Well, a little while ago, damn it. Oh, I just had his name on the tip of my tongue. Canadian dude who created Spawn. I'm forgetting his name.
How do you not know a Canadian?
I know. Guys, throw it in the chat board. The name of the guy who created Spawn. I'm looking at his face in my mind right now, and I totally know him. But anyway, the creator of Spawn actually said about 4 months ago, I believe, that he is looking at writing, producing, and directing another Spawn movie, a new Spawn movie himself. And I believe it was going to be a revamped Spawn, a rebooted Spawn, is how he was going to approach it and what he was going to be doing. I just gotta say, guys, seriously, the chat board is going like 4 comments a second. Literally, it's
I know, I'm getting busy.
Like 4 comments a second, and I'm trying my best to keep an eye on it too. So he said he was going to do that. Now, keep in mind that he has also been saying for years that it's Todd McFarlane. Thanks so much, guys, in the chat board. It's Todd McFarlane. McFarlane has been saying for years that he's going to be doing that and that another one was coming. And so it's take it with a grain of salt. But he does say that he has plans to write, direct, and produce another Spawn film himself. Whether or not a studio will back it and whether or not it'll actually get into theaters, these are all questions that have remained to be seen. But as far as Todd McFarlane is concerned... Did I say Tard? as far... Thank you so much for pointing out my deficiencies, baby.
Sorry.
As far as Todd McFarlane is concerned, there's going to be another one. We'll just have to see what kind of another one it's going to be. All right, let's take one more.
Okay. Chris Lockhart asks, which December movie, so which movie coming out this month will be the best? Because there's so many.
There are so many. You know what? Let me just refresh my memory by going to Box Office Mojo.
Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
There's Secret Life of Walter Mitty, The Hobbit. Don't forget Tyler Perry's Medea. Don't forget that one.
Isn't Wolf of Wall Street?
I think Wolf of Wall Street. It's coming out on Christmas Day.
Anchorman 2.
Grudge Match.
47
Ronin. Oh boy. So what's the question?
Which one's going to be the best?
Which one's going to be the best?
That's a hard question.
I'm going to go on this. The one that has a chance of beating The Hobbit is probably The Wolf of Wall Street. I'm hearing some great things. I haven't gone to a screening of it yet, but I've heard some great things from some friends of mine who have seen screenings already.
Doesn't American Hustle come out this month?
American Hustle, but I'm telling you, I've heard mixed things about American Hustle. Now, the reason I haven't seen American Hustle yet is because they're doing the junket and the press screenings for it in New York, and I sent Amy Rose to go to New York because I don't like going to New York. I sent her out to New York to go cover that and a couple other movies this weekend, so she has seen American Hustle, but I'm hearing mixed things. I'm dying to see it. I can't wait to see it, but I'm personally hearing mixed things.
Saving Mr. Banks, I forgot.
Oh, gosh, yeah. When's that coming out again?
That's Christmas Day as well, I think.
I don't think it's Christmas Day.
It's close.
Let's see. Is it this week? No. I can't remember which exact day Saving Mr. Banks, which I have seen.
But it's this month.
And both of us liked it.
Yes.
Both of us liked it. But I got to repeat this. One of the funniest things about Saving Mr. Banks is this. I mean, you're watching all the TV commercials. Colin Farrell is in this movie more than Tom Hanks is. He has more screen time, more lines, more everything. And Colin Farrell isn't even in the television commercials. If you're going to go in, there's going to be a lot of people that go into this movie, that go in to watch Saving Mr. Banks, and are going to be shocked when Colin Farrell pops up.
And he's the best part of the movie.
He is absolutely the best part of the movie.
Considering Tom Hanks is my favorite actor of all time, I hate to say that, but Colin Farrell steals
this movie.
Even over Emma Thompson, I think.
I believe, and I told Colin this when I met with him a couple of weeks ago, I believe that this is Colin Farrell's best performance of his career. Yeah. I think it's even better than his performance in Bruges. I think it's the best performance, and they're not even letting people know he's in the movie. It's unbelievable. All these commercials come up for Saving Mr. Banks, never see a single shot of Colin Farrell, and he's like in it more than Tom Hanks is. It's great, but really, the movie is Emma Thompson's movie. Mm-hmm. Emma Thompson, make no mistake, Emma Thompson is the star of the film because everything about this movie revolves around her. But yeah, I think both of us agree that Colin Farrell stole the movie. So it'll be interesting to hear your guys' reactions once the movie comes out. Well, folks, that will do it for us. We're approaching 50 minutes here. Thank you so much. We've got some things we need to do with our weekend, so we're going to get out of here. But thank you guys so much for joining us. Listen, I want to remind you, AMC brings you all this online YouTube content because they love film fans and they want us all to be talking and chatting about films. And I want to encourage you, lots of great movies playing in AMC theaters right now and some coming up. And if you want some advance tickets or tickets for films that are in theaters right now, head on over to www.amctheaters.com for your theater, showtime, and movie ticket information. Listen, don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel, it'll keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news. And of course, our Monday through Friday AMC Movie Talk show and our weekend AMC Mailbag show. Spread the word around. Share the show on your Facebook page and Twitter and whatever. Help us get the word out about AMC Movie News. Thanks so much for joining us. I want to thank my lovely better half, Miss Ann Campia, for being willing. By the way, she doesn't work here. She doesn't work at AMC. She's taking time out of her Sunday morning because I needed help with the Chatboard. So thank you so much, Anne, for being here
today. A lot of fun, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
And thank you guys for joining us. Listen, don't forget you can follow me on the various social media networks, just at John Campia. That's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. You can follow Anne at Anne Campia. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. So until next time, my name is John Campia for AMC Movie News. And until then, bye-bye.